we are moving on to our last topic of week 7, and that is solving absolute value inequalities. This is slightly difficult in advance, so we want to make sure to really keep our head focused with the notes, follow our steps, utilize our notes as much as possible. First thing, make sure absolute value sign is, what do you think? No. Alone. Just like what we did yesterday. The first thing we want to do is make sure the absolute value sign is alone. You cannot make any kind of cases unless the absolute value sign is alone. Then we create our case. Is plural. You always have two. We remember that when we create our negative case, we have to MD and F. So anytime you create that negative case, you have to MD and F it. That means flip that inequality. So anytime you create a negative case with inequalities, you MD and F it. Third, you knew it, you solve it, and then graph if needed. Okay? So, I make sure absolute value sign is alone. I create my cases. When I create my negative case, I MD and F it. I solve and I graph if needed. Let's see what this is all about. Of course, the first ones I'm gonna start out easy, okay? The absolute value of 2x is bigger than or equal to 12. Oh, darn it. The absolute value sign is alone. So all I need to do is create my cases. So I say I still have a positive and negative case. So I say 2x is bigger than or equal to 12, or now I got my negative case, that's when I MD and F it. 2x is less than or equal to negative 12. The only difficult part here is when you have to remember to MD and F that second case. So be so careful. Now I can solve. Divide by 2, x is bigger than or equal to 6, or divide by 2, x is less than or equal to what? Negative 6. Wait, why did I do that? This should just be x. Oh gosh. X is greater than or equal to 6. Okay. Because you guys can't move yours. So now I graph it. I have a closed circle at 6. And I'm bigger than it, so I'm going to the right. I have a closed circle at negative 6. I'm less than it, so I'm going to the left. All right. I get the luxury of being able to move my graph down. This next one, I have the absolute value sign is alone, so I can create my cases right away. I create my positive and my negative case. So I say x minus 3 is less than 6. Or, everybody's writing this down, x minus 3, it's my negative case, I'm going to MD and F it, is bigger than negative 6. My positive case, the inequality stays the same. My negative case, I MD and F it. I flip that inequality. Solving both cases, I'm going to add 3. So I get x is less than 9. That's me adding 3. Or x is bigger than negative 3. Now it looks like an or statement, but watch when I graph it. I'm going to wait for you to catch up to me because I want you to see my process here. Okay. Oh, goodness. Where'd it go? So I have x is less than 9. So I have an open circle at 9. I'm going this way. Or x is bigger, pay attention, than negative 3. If x is bigger than negative 3, I have an open circle. I'm going that way. What's going to happen to them? They're going to crash. They're going to connect. It's an and statement. All right, let's see what else we got. Okay, flip it. Okay, the next part that we do, we have to extend it and use our absolute value as a grouping symbol. Remember, the first thing you need to do, you cannot create your cases until the absolute value is alone. So, look, read it. Before you make your cases, you have, I'm yelling at you, you have to make sure the absolute value sign is, I'm yelling again, alone. Before you make your cases, you have to make sure the absolute value sign is alone. Okay? You have to. So, the absolute value of 2x minus 1 minus 3 is less than 4. Is my absolute value sign alone? Is my absolute value sign alone? No. I have this minus 3 hanging out near it. So what I need to do is get rid of that. I'm going to add 3. I'm going to add 3. Okay? So now I get the absolute value of 2x minus 1 is less than 7. Now I can create my cases. My positive case, 2x minus 1 is less than 7, or my negative case, 2x minus 1, MD and F it, is bigger than negative 7. And now I solve both cases. I would add 1, so 2x is less than 8, x is less than 4, or add 1, 2x is bigger than what? That would be negative 6. X is bigger than negative 3. Now, there is a rule to be able to tell if it becomes an and statement or an or statement. I've never gotten the rule. I always have to draw a picture. So I always draw the graph only if they ask you to draw it. And so it looks like I'm dealing with negative 3 and 4. And I have x is less than 4. That's an open circle going to the left. Or x is bigger than negative 3. Open circle going to the right. They'll crash into each other. It becomes an and. And there's a special trick to be able to tell if it's going to be positive or an and or an or. Is my absolute value sign alone here? Yes or no? No. What's hanging out by it? 3. How do I move that 3? Divide. Divide everything through by 3. And I get the absolute value of 4x plus 3 is bigger than 5. Now my absolute value sign is alone. Now I can make my cases. 4x plus 3 is bigger than 5. MD and F this next one. Or 4x plus 3 is less than negative 5. Solve both cases. 4x is bigger than 2. That's me subtracting 3. X is bigger than 2 over 4, which is 1/2. And I don't have room, maybe I do, I'm sure you guys really don't have room to simplify that down. Okay, but this should be x is bigger than 1/2. Subtracting 3 again, I'm negative, subtracting more. You really add that negative. 4x is less than negative 8. X is less than negative 2. Now again, I don't know, is this going to be an or an and statement? Heck if I know. But if I draw a picture, I can always tell. Then I have a half, 1, 2. So I have an open circle at a half going to the right, and I have an open circle at negative 2 going to the left. So is that an or an and? It's an or. All right, I'm going to have you go through and try to do the next two independently. I'm going to walk around, circulate, see how you do. Remember to get the absolute value sign alone and then create your cases. All right, the absolute value sign is not by itself, so I need to get it by itself. To get it by itself, I'm going to multiply through by 4. It cancels that 4 out. I'm left with the absolute value of 3x is bigger than 4. Now my absolute value is alone, so I create my cases. 3x is bigger than 4, or 3x is less than negative 4. Solve. X is bigger than 4 over 3, or x is less than negative 4/3. All right, last one. This is hard. You gotta do 2 things to get the absolute value alone. First thing I need to do is subtract 4, and I get the absolute value of 4x minus 2 over 2 is less than 2. Right, Chris? Multiply through by 2. The absolute value of 4x minus 2 is less than 4. Now I can create my case. 4x minus 2 is less than 4, or 4x minus 2 is bigger than negative 4. And solve both of them. Add 2, 4x is less than 6. Simplifying this down, that would be 3/2. And lastly, this is the last step, and we're done. 4x is bigger than negative 2. X is bigger than negative 2/4. X is bigger than negative 1/2. Whew, that's the math.